UK property investing will never be the same again. And honestly, I think it's brilliant news if you know how to play it right. Right now, there are two massive forces reshaping the UK rental market. On one side, you've got the government who is systematically pushing out small landlords through legislation after legislation. On the other side, you've got billions of pounds of private equity flooding into the UK residential property market. BlackRock, Lloyds Banking Group and John Lewis, they're all becoming landlords. And what's happening is that the amateur landlords, the 1 to 10 property investors, treating it like a side hustle or a pension, they're getting squeezed out. But here's the thing, that creates a once in a generation opportunity for professional operators. People who are willing to treat property like a business. Because that window of opportunity to build wealth through property, I generally think it's closing. It might be short in 10, maybe 20 years, but it's closing. So in today's video, I'm going to show you what's actually happening, why most landlords are finished, and why this could be the best time in decades to build a serious property business if you're willing to do it. So let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm Jim Holland from Dan and Jim Property, which I run with my brother in the northwest of England. We buy houses and rent them out either as whole properties or by the room. And I've just completed my first HMO conversion, transforming a 3-bed house into a 6-bedroom property, and raised £160,000 in private investor funds to make it happen. Right now, I'm focused on filling my pipeline with 3 to 5 projects over the next 12 months, working towards my goal of building a portfolio of 50 HMOs. My ultimate bigger vision is to create freedom for myself and others through property, whilst providing high quality accommodation housing that people are actually proud to call their home. So if you want to follow along on this journey and learn about HMOs, conversions and property investing and managing your portfolio like a business, make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's grow together. Alright, let's start with what's actually happening, because if you're not paying attention to this, you're going to get left behind. There are two massive factors reshaping UK property right now, and both of them are happening at the same time. First, the UK government. Over the last decade, they've been systematically making it harder to be a landlord in the UK. Section 24, which removed mortgage interest relief for landlords operating in their personal names. A massive tax hit. If you're buying property in your own name, you can no longer offset your full mortgage interest against your rental income. Basically, you're paying tax on revenue, not profit. The Rent is Right bill. This is abolishing Section 21 no-fault evictions. It's banning landlords from asking for rent in advance. It's giving tenants the ability to end tenancies from day one. Then there's EPC requirements. Your property needs to be a C rating by 2025 for new tenancies, and 2028 for existing. That's an expensive refit. Capital gains tax changes, landlord licensing schemes expanding across the country, and then there's Article 4 directions. Now this last one is huge for me as a HMO operator. Article 4 directions remove your permitted development rights to convert a house into a small HMO. Suddenly you'll need planning permission, and councils can just say no to this. Over the last year alone, we've seen Article 4 rolled out in Ealing, Wakefield, Walsall, Sutton, Rugby, Bolton, and dozens more councils. Borough-wide restrictions, immediate directions. This is a systematic tightening of the rules. And the results? Landlords are selling up in record numbers. 26% of landlords sold at least one property in 2024, and only 8% bought. Between April 21 and October 24, 290,000 rental properties were sold. That's 6% of the entire private rented sector in England and Wales. In Q1 25 alone, over 70,000 former rented properties hit the market for sale. The median age of a UK landlord is now 59, and they're getting out. But while small landlords are selling up, someone else is buying in, and it's private equity. Institutional investors with big money. BlackRock. They've committed 1.1 billion to the UK residential property market. They've got a joint venture with a company called Outpost Management, and they've already invested 500 million. With another 500 million planned in build-to-rent apartments in London, Birmingham and other major cities across the UK. John Lewis as well, yes, the department store. They're pivoting into property as well. They've committed 500 million through a joint venture with Aberdeen Group, and their target, 10,000 homes by 2030. They want to become one of Britain's largest build-to-rent landlords. Lloyds Banking Group, their original plan was to own 50,000 homes by 2030, and they've already got 6,000 properties with more in the pipeline. And it's not just them. NatWest is financing build-to-rent developments, same as Legal & General and M&G. The list goes on and on. This is billions of pounds flooding into the UK residential property market. And here's what's important to understand. These aren't property investors like me and you. These are institutions looking for long-term, stable returns. They're buying massive portfolios and they're building developments. These guys are bringing massive scale. And here's the other thing to mention as well. Governments know they can't bully these players like they can with small landlords. When you're BlackRock or Lloyds with thousands of properties and billions in capital, you've got leverage. You've got lawyers and political influence, so you can negotiate. When you're a landlord with 3 properties operating in your personal name, you've got absolutely nothing. You just take whatever legislation gets thrown at you. So you've got the government pushing out smaller landlords on one side, and then you've got private equity hoovering up property on the other. And the government knows exactly who they can push around. And it's us in the middle who are being squeezed out. So if you're a landlord with 1 to 10 properties, right now, I'm going to be blunt, you're in trouble. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic, the numbers don't lie. The model of being an accidental landlord or treating property like a side hustle or just getting a couple of buy-to-lets for your pension, that model's dead. First up, you can't absorb the compliance cost. Let's say you've got 3 standard buy-to-lets, and then you get hit with the following. EPC upgrades to hit a C rating. That's potentially 5 to 15 grand per property, depending on the work. Landlord licensing fees. Depending on your council, this could be £500 to £1,000 per property every 5 years. If you've got 3 normal buy-to-lets and your net income per property, if it's doing really well, might be £300 to £500 a month. You're living on the edge. 1 major repair, 1 void period, 1 rent arrears issue, and your annual profits are gone. You don't have the scale to spread the risk. Second, you can't compete with professional standards. When I say professional, I mean this. Proper accounting systems, proper tenant management, compliance tracking, and capital reserves. They're properly managing their own tenants. These older school landlords are probably managing the tenants with pen and paper. They're probably reacting to problems instead of preventing them. Compare this to someone like us. We're members of the National Residential Landlords Association. We've got professional HMO specialist letting agents managing our properties. And we've got a proper financial system. And we've got a network of other professional operators we're learning from constantly. Or compare it with Lloyd's with 6,000 properties and a dedicated operational team. The old school way just can't compete. Third up, you don't have access to capital to scale. If you want to grow, ultimately you need funding. You need to raise money and you need to refinance. And you need to be able to execute on deals quickly. Institutions have got billions. They're getting debt from banks at rates me and you can't even imagine. And they're doing forward funding deals with house builders. Even as a smaller professional operator, we raised $160,000 from private investors for our first HMO conversion. That's because we treat this like a business. We have investor-ready materials and we can show credibility. But if you're a 1 to 10 property landlord, you're probably maxed out on buy-to-let mortgages. And you're probably not set up to raise private capital. You're going to get stuck. And the stats back this up. The median age of a UK landlord is 59. Over half have been landlords for more than 11 years. And the most cited reason for being a landlord, long-term investments to supplement pensions. These people aren't professional operators. They bought a property or 2 decades ago and they've enjoyed capital appreciation. And now they're looking to cash out and retire. And frankly, with everything the government's thrown at them, I don't really blame them. Between April and June 25 alone, 6,700 households qualified for homeless prevention help because their landlords decided to sell. That's 3 times higher than the next most common reason for ending a tenancy. This really is an exodus. From 2010 to 2018, the share of homes owned by landlords with just 1 property halved. It went from 40% to 20%. Meanwhile, landlords owning 5 to 24 properties increased their share of the market. In my opinion, the data's clear. If you're small, you're getting squeezed out. If you're professional and scaling, you're consolidating market share. But this next bit is where it gets even crazier. Let me show you these numbers that just don't make any sense. Over the last year, the UK population increased by 755,000 people. That's the 2nd largest annual increase in over 75 years. To put that in perspective, that's the entire population of the city of Leeds. We've added a whole city to the country in 12 months. And 98% of that growth came from net international migration. 1.2 million people arrived and about 500,000 people left. Net results, 755 new people. Now, you might be thinking, Jim, what's this got to do with property investing? Well, the answer is actually everything. Because at the same time, the government's promised to build 1.5 million new homes over the next 5 years. That's their big target. Get Britain building again. 1.5 million homes. Which sounds ambitious, right? Except, let's do the maths on this. 1.5 million homes over 5 years is 300,000 homes per year. But we're adding 755,000 people to the population per year. We assume an average of 2.5 people per household, which is pretty generous. We'd need 302,000 new homes just to house the new people arriving every year, not the existing housing shortage, not the first-time buyers trying to get on the ladder, not the people stuck in overcrowded housing, just the new arrivals. And that's assuming that the government actually hits their target. But the reality is they're not hitting that. Between July 24 and September 25, the government added 231,000 homes. That's 15% of their total 5-year target. They're way off pace. And the Office for Budget Responsibility, as projected, over the next 5 years, will get about 1.3 million additional homes across the entire UK. Not the 1.5 million Labour promised for England alone. So we're not even keeping pace with the current demand, let alone catching up with the backlog. And here's what makes the government's approach so insane. They're pushing out landlords. 290,000 rental properties sold. 26% of landlords are selling up. Article 4 directions blocking HMO conversions. They're systematically reducing the supply of rental housing, while at the same time, we're adding 750,000 people to the population every single year. Where exactly do the government think these people are going to live? You can't have it both ways. You can't attack landlords and reduce housing supply while the population is exploding. So who's going to fill this gap? Well, in my opinion, professional operators. People who treat property like it's a business. And private equity firms with billions to deploy. That's why this is a golden opportunity. Because the demand isn't just going anywhere, in fact, it's getting worse. So this is where it gets really interesting. If you're looking at all of this and thinking, Jim, this sounds like an absolute nightmare. Why would anyone get into property right now? It's a legitimate question, but in my opinion, you're looking at this completely wrong. This is a golden opportunity, and I'll tell you why. First up, the amateur exodus creates supply for buyers. Right now, there are thousands of landlords selling up. They're near retirement and they can't deal with the new legislation. They just want to get out. That means properties are hitting the market, and not all of them are being bought by other landlords. In Q4 24, about 40,000 former rental properties were listed for sale. Only 3,600 were relet in Q1 25. So where did the rest go? Some went to owner-occupiers and some went to professional operators like us. Some are just sitting on the market. In my opinion, this is opportunity. You've got motivated sellers and you've got properties that have already been tenanted or have rental history. So you've got deals to be done. When everyone else is running away from the sector, that's usually when the best opportunities appear. Second, in my opinion, me and you can do what the big institutions can't. BlackRock, Lloyds aren't buying HMOs and not doing conversions. They're not targeting niche strategies. They're building or buying brand new build-to-rent apartment blocks. They're doing bulk purchases from house builders, and they're playing at scale in the most vanilla part of the market. So this means they're missing out on value. And I think there's values in HMO conversions, turning properties into 6, 7, and 8 beds, and doubling their rental income. The value in this is moving fast. When a deal comes up, me and you can make a decision. An institution might take 6 months to do this. There's value in building local relationships. Estate agents, builders, investors, planning officers. You can't do that when you're a faceless corporation. And the value is in operating lean. You don't have 5 layers of management and a board of directors. You can make decisions quickly and keep costs tight. So there's a sweet spot here. And it's not the 1 to 10 property amateur landlords. And it's not the billion-pound institutions. It's the 10 to 50 property professionals. You're big enough to have systems and scale, but you're small enough to move fast and stay lean. In my opinion, that's going to be the game. And here's the other thing, the government actually wants this. They don't want a million accidental landlords with 1 property each, doing the absolute bare minimum, cutting corners and treating tenants poorly. They want fewer, better landlords. Professional operators who maintain properties properly, comply with regulations and treat tenants like customers. That's what all this legislation is designed to do. It's designed to raise standards and push people out who can't meet them. And if you're willing to step up and be a professional operator, you're exactly the type of people the government want to be in the market. And the private equity influx proves that the opportunity is real. BlackRock doesn't invest 1.1 billion into a dying sector. John Lewis doesn't commit to 10,000 homes because they think the rental market's finished. They're doing all this because they see stable long-term demand. They see predictable returns, and they see a market where supply is constrained and demand is growing. If the smartest money in the world is piling into the UK residential market, then that should probably tell you something. The opportunity is real, but it's not for amateurs anymore. And this is exactly why my brother and I are treating this like a business. We're members of the National Residential Landlords Association. We're networking with other professional operators around the UK. We've got HMO specialist letting agents who knows the game inside out. We raised £160,000 from private investors for our first HMO conversion because we presented it professionally. We showed them the numbers and we showed them the plan. And we treated them like partners. So we're not treating this like a side hustle. This is the whole pie. And that's the mindset you need to have if you want to succeed in this market. Because in my opinion, the window's open, but it won't be open forever. So I keep saying professional operators, but let me actually define what that means and looks like. Because this isn't about being a full-time landlord versus part-time. And it's not about how many properties you own. It's about running it like a business. You need to think about it like a business, not an investment. And what's the key difference? An investment is something you put money into and hope it grows. Like stocks and a pension. You set and you forget. A business is something you actively run. You have systems, you have processes, and you ultimately have responsibilities. If you're treating property like a pension, you're going to get destroyed by the compliance burden because you're not really set up to handle it. But if you're treating it like a business, compliance is just part of operation. It's not a shock, it's not a burden, it's just what you do as a business. So what does that look like practically? You need proper accounting and proper bookkeeping, proper software, proper records, and you need to know your numbers inside out. And actually, we've built a profit and loss spreadsheet specifically for tracking HMO performance. We use it to monitor every property's income and expenses in real time. And I've done a full video walkthrough explaining exactly how to use it, so I'll link that in the description below. You'll need compliance tracking. When's your gas safety cert due? When's your electrical inspection due? And when do you need a new HMO license? You're going to need a system that automatically tracks all of this. You need tenant management processes. How do you vet the tenants? How do you handle maintenance requests? And how do you deal with rent arrears? On top of this, you need capital reserves. If the boiler breaks, you can't just not fix it because you don't have the cash. You need to have reserves. And you also need a growth plan. Where are you going to move in the next 12 months? The next 5 years? What's your strategy? And this is exactly what I mean by treating it like a business. And here's why this matters. It protects you from legislation. When the government introduces new regulation, professional operators adapt. They've got the systems to comply. They've got cash reserves to invest in upgrades, and they've got the processes to handle it. Amateur landlords freak out. They don't have the systems and they don't have the cash, and they can't cope, so they just sell up, and that's the key difference. Not only this, it also makes you competitive. You can raise capital because you've got investor-ready material. You've got a good track record and you've got a plan. So you can move fast on deals because you know your numbers. You know what you can afford and you can make decisions quickly. And you can deliver high standards because you've got the processes in place. Your properties are compliant, your tenants are happy, and you're not cutting corners. And you can scale because you've got systems that work. You're not just reacting to problems all the time. You actually build something that can grow. For us, that looks like this. We both work full time, but we're treating property like a business. We've got professional HMO specialists, letting agents managing our property, because we understand we can't do ourselves to the standard that needs to be done. We've raised private investment because we presented our deal professionally. We showed the investors the numbers using our P&L spreadsheet, and we walked them through the whole plan, which ultimately gave them confidence. And we're planning for the next 3 to 5 projects over the next 12 months. So we've got a pipeline, we've got a strategy, and that's what being a professional operator looks like. You don't have to be massive, you don't have to have hundreds of properties. You just have to treat it like a business, which I've said multiple times in this video. So here's the reality. This opportunity will not last forever. I genuinely believe we've got 10 to 20 years max before the door completely shuts. And here's why. Right now, private equity is still building their portfolios. They're still growing and they're still learning the market. But in 10 to 20 years, they'll own a significant chunk of the UK rental stock. And when that happens, the opportunity for individual operators shrinks dramatically. Because me and you will be competing with firms who have billions in capital, thousands of properties, and economics of scale you can't match. You'll still be able to operate in the niches, HMOs, conversions, value-add strategies, but the broader market will be dominated by institutions. And at some point, supply will catch up with demand. Right now, we're in a supply crisis. Not enough homes, too many people, and rents are skyrocketing. That creates opportunity. And I know this is a big but if the government ever sorts out planning and house builders ramp up production, and if supply starts to meet demand, the margins will compress. And when margins compress, only the most efficient operators survive. That's institutions with scale and professional operators who are lean and smart. The amateurs get wiped out. Eventually, the regulatory environment will stabilize. Right now, we're in a period of massive change. Feels like there's new legislation every year, new requirements and more costs, which is creating chaos. And chaos creates opportunity for people who can adapt. But eventually, the dust is going to settle, and the rules will be clear, and the market will adjust. And the opportunity to gain an advantage through professionalism will shrink. So in my opinion, if you want to build wealth through property, the time to move is now. Not next year, not in 5 years, but now. Because ultimately now the window is open. The small landlords are selling up and the demand is exploding. The institutions are still building their positions. So that means me and you can get in. You can get in and you can build a portfolio of 10, 20, 50 properties. And you can establish yourself as a professional operator. But you need to do it now. In 10 to 20 years, I think the opportunity will be completely gone. The market's going to be dominated by institutions on one side and a small number of professional operators on the other. The question is, are you going to be in one of those sides? So the UK property investing market will never be the same again. The government is squeezing out small landlords through legislation, and private equity is flooding in with billions. The population is growing faster than we can build homes, and the amateur landlords treating property as a side hustle, they're finished. But this 100% creates opportunity, a massive opportunity, if you're willing to treat property like the business it needs to be. You need professional systems and you need to comply properly. You need to scale strategically and you need to move fast because the window's closing. So if you're interested in working with us or investing alongside us, we've actually set up an investor waitlist. The link's in the description below. Fill it in and let's have a chat. I've also linked a video where I walk through our profit and loss spreadsheet so you can see exactly how to track property performance month to month. This is a once in a generation opportunity, but it won't last forever. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.